Hey, welcome to It's Not All Black and White.
I am Cera, I'm Black.
I'm Matthew, I'm white, and we're the Interracial Couple. Welcome to today's podcast, where we're going to be talking about conflict, actually, and the joys of conflict, right?
There's joy in conflict.
I don't know. We managed to make it through yesterday, which was a good thing.
It's been a very stressful couple days.
Yeah, right. So we... just a little backstory on that is that Cera's company, Ecodunia, had boxes piled in here of produce bags, shopping bags, wallets from Go Leather, Fish Leather, all sorts of stuff that had to get shipped out today.
And not today, yesterday.
Had to get it shipped out yesterday.
Yeah.
But it ended up going out today, this morning. Everything was just kind of like pushed back. There was one thing after another. The packaging came a day late. So we had this like backlog of all this stuff that had to get done, packaged, QC'd. And so yesterday, after we were many hours in, we were 2 days of a lot of work, and we ended up getting to a difficult moment.
It wasn't just like that one moment. It was like, I would say it was like 2 days of conflict. Tiny moments of conflict.
Was it conflict? Or was I just not noticing it?
There wasn't one major place where we screamed at each other or like where we argued a lot. There was small instances because we were working together for such long hours, 14-hour days for a couple days, where there was just like, we would argue about it, but we wouldn't talk about it. And then we would keep working.
So there were like little things that for you were building up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was, and to say that too, there is like, this whole process is really exciting for me. So there was also the build up of excitement. And then the excitement ends because it's so much work. So it was like, I'm so excited to ship all these things. You know, it's like I did a crowdfunding. And so I was really excited to ship the stuff out before the stuff got to my house. I just thought it wasn't like, there was like, I'm just going to put these things together and then ship them out. But the truth was like, it was hours and hours of work that I didn't fathom. And also I've done so much shipping in my life, but you haven't done shipping with me. So you were like, it's a day worth of work. But it was like 4 people working.
Right. So that was underneath your whole, when you're saying there was like the conflict part of it was that you already were defensive that I was minimizing the amount of work.
Yeah, I went in it. Then I started getting angry at some point because I was like, this is supposed to take fast. Like it's supposed to go faster than it's going, and that the faster you were not helping. You know, you were not doing the boxes. You were helping in other ways. You were QCing the wallets. I know, like you were totally helping, but not in the work that you said was gonna take a day.
Okay. So that set you off on the wrong foot.
Yeah. So going into it, I was already having some resentment that I wasn't like I wasn't being seen, or like I had done it, but there was just like, it's going to take an hour. To me, it just felt like
an hour. Never said an hour.
A day. Sorry.
Yeah. Big difference.
But to me, it was like 3 days of work. And if I was alone, it could have taken me a week.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, but that was never part of the discussion that it was you working alone. It was that with all of us working together, it was a day, and it turned out being all of us working for a day, and then you and me working for another ridiculously long day.
But you didn't ask me because you've done this for a while, how long do you think this is gonna take? You just was like, this is gonna take a day. Well, you had never done it before. You know, so it was just like, to me, it's like, and I'm always amazed at like how men are so sure of themselves, even when they're wrong. Like, you are so sure of yourself, and what's crazy is because you're so sure, I hate to admit this, but I start believing you. Well, I'm like, no, I know better. I've done this before. It's gonna take, you know, more than 14-hour day of one day. It's a 14-hour day of 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super like impressed by like, not impressed. It's just, I think like I just need to be more sure of myself, and rather than be like resentful of you for being sure.
Yeah. No, I think, even in that thing too, some of it is that it's actually still a very new process, right? And there were things that took way longer than they would if this was actually further along in the process.
True.
Right.
If we had system, it would be like so much
because
easier.
it's not actually the work, it's the creating the system in order to do the work. And that was certainly part of that too, right? Which is that there was, at some point that might be doable, and at some point it might even be doable quicker, but certainly not at this point because this is all still brand new. And you would call that, right, sort of like the Founders Fallacy, right?
Yeah,
which is that, there's this amount of work, I can definitely do it in that amount of time, because it's possible to do things in less time when you actually really know what to do and you have a system in place. And I think that actually kind of comes up with a lot of sort of the work that I've been engaging in too, the creativity stuff is looking at, that things that work well and work smoothly have a system. That whether it's a system for brushing your teeth, or it's a system for taking a shower when you get out of bed, or it's a system for packaging stuff, or in some of the work that I've been doing, it's a system for making sure that the creative work happens, that the writing happens, that the filmmaking happens, that the podcast happens, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think what I'm realizing with like such a new business is like, actually this is like the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Is like because you don't have a system, so when things happen, you're just figuring it out as you go, and no one tells you this stuff.
Since we're talking about some of the conflict stuff, when you're talking about your side of how you experienced that, I immediately want to start defending, because there are certain assumptions or the way that you saw it versus the way that I saw it, and my inclination is to defend it. But I really don't want to get into a defending, because we can go into he said, she said, your point of view, my point of view, and that can go on forever. And at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter. And there were a couple of areas where that happened yesterday where that showed itself. One was at the end of the day, as soon as everything was done, there was this moment of, well, okay, it's all done. Now we don't, like, the tension that had led us to that point, and this was kind of fascinating to me, was it was just gone almost. I mean, there was still, it wasn't gone completely, but there wasn't a sense of, we didn't actually take it into bed. As soon as it was done, we're okay. Because one of the things that was so fascinating also is that at the end of the day, we were arguing because we wanted the same thing. And I think that in couples stuff, that happens so often, where we don't have children, but I want, you see this a lot of times with couples, or I've experienced it in the past, right? I want this for the children because I think it will be best. And the other partner wants this other thing for the kids because they think it will be best. Now they're fighting over wanting the exact same thing. At the end of the day, we wanted to, as quickly as possible and as securely as possible and with as much organization as possible, we wanted to get all of the products packaged, boxed up, labeled, and everything done quickly, efficiently, in a way that would make it get to the U.S. Safely, etc. Right? So we actually wanted the same thing. So we were fighting over the fact that we wanted the same thing. And then when it came to how to address an envelope, the American who's been shipping things in America for a very long time, and the person how many letters have you actually written and sent in the mail in America?
When I actually think about it, I don't think I've ever sent out a mail.
Okay, so
I don't know how many times I've been to the post office.
Right.
I've been to UPS a lot of times, but to the post office, I don't remember.
Right. So we're shipping stuff, and in being a person in my 40s, I've used the post office a lot in my life. I know, like, I've hired young people to work for me and assistants who literally I had 2 assistants in LA. Both of them had never actually gone to the post office and said, like, I had one assistant was working for me and he was like, wait, where does the stamp go? So that wasn't exactly you, but we were arguing because I want these crowdfunding packages to get to the people who order them. It's exactly what you want.
Yeah, but to me, it just felt like, wait, why are you so keen where I put the label?
Right.
To me, it's like, it's not a big deal where the labels go.
So anybody who has never shipped before would be like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Just tell the post office you gave them money and they'll take it.
To me, I just wanted the label. I wanted to make it easier for the person delivering. Like, they can be able to like tell this is like where the label goes. But for you, you're like, the post office, like based, I don't know. If you go to the post office,
we can sit here and argue about how to put an address, a return label, and postage on a package.
We did argue about that.
We did, and we're arguing about it again today. And forget who's right or wrong. Forget who's mailed lots of things and who hasn't, because that would be completely beside the point. The point was that we wanted the same thing. We wanted the packages to get to the people who ordered them.
We did.
And we had an argument because we both wanted the same thing.
True.
That was it.
Yeah, but that argument lasted for like 4 minutes?
No, it didn't, because then it was like, fine, we just do it your way. So it was a reoccurring theme to, well, I'm just going to do it the way you want it to be done because I don't want to argue. You said that numerous times. So
the reason, first of all, like I knew you were right, because I haven't mailed a lot of things, so I knew that you were right, but I didn't want to admit that you were right.
Right. Okay.
But then I needed to make you feel like, I wanted to remind you that you get to win a lot of conflict in our relationship by being right.
Wait, who gets to win most of the arguments in our relationship?
You do.
Oh, okay. Really? Like, by what is your percentage? What percentage of disagreements or arguments do I win?
Like yesterday, I just felt like you really won where the thing goes.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to lose. Like, it's just wanted to be
that
right.
That makes no sense. I even went to the post office website. I was like, this is how you're supposed to label it. So it wasn't even a matter of me being right.
No, it was. I just wanted to be right. I just wanted it to be done my way.
Okay.
And I want it to be done my way because I feel like we do a lot of things your way.
You just stated that. This is the second time that you stated that that we do it my way because I win all the arguments.
Yeah, and the way you win them is so swiftly. Like, you win them. I don't even know how to explain this. Like, I feel like you kind of just push your way a little bit, because like how to be right. And you're right most of the time.
When I am? So then you're thrilled that I win the arguments, because if I'm right and you also want to be right, by losing the argument, you are the one who's gained new knowledge and insight into the world. So therefore, every time I win an argument, I don't get anything out of it, but you get all of this new information and this new way of understanding the world. Okay, so basically what you're also saying is that some of the residual challenges from yesterday have not dissipated. It's kind of like a thick fart in the room that still exists.
No, actually I'm over it, because I know that, like, I just wanted, like, I don't, like, I'm not holding on to, like, I also know, like, I don't sweat small stuff, like, that is not something that I'm gonna hold on to. I just don't move through life like that. You know me like that, so I move on.
That I will give you that, for sure.
I move on very quickly. But what I don't move on from is remembering the number of times like you win arguments. So next time we argue, I want to win.
I want to, okay, for sure. In fact, you know what? You'll win this one. How's that?
Let's move on.
Okay.
So this is not a first conflict. We've had a lot of conflicts.
We've had our fair share. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that I've always kind of appreciated is that when we're having the conflicts, that they don't actually linger, right? That they can be in the moment, and it doesn't have to be something that is sort of a referendum on our relationship or on our compatibility, and that a lot of times there's even humor that comes into it or can come into it fairly quickly afterwards, right? Like a pretty quick recognition that whatever it was that was difficult for us, or whatever brought it, was like, it was a moment that once again usually goes to what we want, or the similarity in what we want. Like yesterday was a good example. And then we had, when we first moved here, in the first couple months we were living here, we had been spending a couple of days helping your mom find a new place to live. A lot of stress, a lot of really like early mornings, late nights. And at one point we were in Westlands in Nairobi, and I was completely exhausted. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And you felt like you needed to spend a couple more days with your mother, and you wanted me to join you. And I refused. I left. I went and hopped on a bus home, and you went on a bus to your mom's. But that was a big blow up.
It was a big blow up in the moment, but I was so angry when you left. I was like, how could you leave? Like I felt like in that moment I needed you so bad. Like I wanted you to do this with me. But when I'm thinking about our conflict, it's not like they come, like our big conflicts like that, this one that we remember, they come after a prolonged period of where we're tired. We had just, in that moment, I'm just thinking, it's like we had just moved and cleared our house in the US. That took like giving up our stuff, selling things, saying goodbye to our friends, and then moving here and getting used to, this was like the first month after we landed. And you start not being clear, so I just felt like I needed you, but technically I didn't need you. So I was really angry. And then I got to my mom. It was like, you got angry and you got into a bus.
I did not get angry, actually. That was one of the things, is that you and I would kind of have a little bit of backstory on this too, is that you and I you had found a book on the library, and I think you were listening. Yeah, it was an audiobook, and it was Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul. And you had gotten about halfway through, and you were sharing some stuff with me, and so then I went and got it myself on the library's website, and I was listening to it, and I loved it. And it was very sort of Zen, accepting curiosity in the world, not trying to force things that don't be. And it was a sort of a cathartic book to read in a lot of ways, just very simple in some ways, but with a lot of profound truth. And I think one of the things that actually came up, because you were angry with me, but for me, my challenge in that moment was you wanted me to go and spend a couple more days helping you. And I knew at that moment I was about to do it, but I knew if I did it, I would be resentful. And something that I had learned is that usually when I'm resentful of someone who's close to me, a partner, is that I've allowed myself to get pushed well past my own comfort zone. So that became the kind of this sort of defining thing, was I realized I'm at my limit, and I really need to respect that. Now, you had a need that was different from my need. You needed support, and I needed to take care of myself. And in that moment, that was where the conflict was, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that was a really difficult decision to make, actually, because I had to do something that I knew wasn't as good for you. Like, you actually, it's not that you needed me, but it would have been really helpful for you to have me there. But if I had gone, I wouldn't have been able to really be there, because it wasn't going to be healthy for me. Like, I needed that time and space, and I just couldn't do it and take care of myself. And it was part of a process that I have been working on, which is as a man that, I've raised 4 kids, and I was the oldest son, in a household that had also, we had our challenges. My parents ended up getting divorced. I had a mother that I kind of wanted to be able to be supportive and pleasing of, and I did it with my ex, and I've found that it's been very much a part of my life, is this, I don't really need anything. I can handle everything. I'm tough. I'm a man. I don't need anything. I got this. I got it. And saying, wait a second, no, actually, there's a reason why when you're on an airplane and the oxygen thing, falls down, it says, put your own on first before you put on someone else's, because if you can't breathe, if you're dead, you can't help the person next to you. So I had to really focus on making sure that if I'm going to actually also be there for you, because there were other emotional challenges, right? You were moving back after having been away for a long time, reconnecting with family, readjusting to being in Kenya. That for me to actually be able to also be supportive in that way, I actually had to really care for myself.
Yeah.
But of course, we had to, so you were angry in that moment. But for me, part of that was actually avoiding, like taking care of myself so that I wouldn't get angry or resentful. And that was actually really, really difficult for me. Because after, so I was ready to leave. And do you remember what happened?
Yeah, you were ready to leave. And then I got really angry that you were not going to be with me. It was 3 days that I needed you to be with me. So I just kind of got on a bus and I went back to my mom's place. And I left you there. And when I got onto the bus, I started listening to Michael Singer's book because I was so angry. First of all, I was angry because I wasn't angry so much at you. I was in that moment, but what I realized, like, I was angry at the whole process, I was so tired. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know that, it's a country that I had just been in a month and I'm supposed to help my mom, find a place, spend all this money. It was just a lot. So it's not like I was angry. That's what I realized when I started listening to Michael Singer's book. And I listened to it. And by the time which took me about an hour, by the time I got to my mom's house, it was just wait, actually I don't need to be angry. It was just the way Michael Singer talks in the book is just about being angry at small things, to me that was just okay, you don't know what to do. You figured it out tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day. I love that book so much because he makes everything that is happening at the moment seem like it's not huge. And that's the way, I want to live my life. Is hard things and challenging things come and go. It's just how we deal with them. And so I remember getting to my mom's house and just calling you and being you know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually not angry. In this moment, I just do not know what to do. And I need to figure this out on my own. And you need to go home and take care of yourself. Yeah. And I thought you were angry, but you were not.
No, for me, the challenge was that for the first 20 minutes after you left and I'm standing, I'm I totally messed up. I made the wrong choice. I should have, I had all these should haves going on. Feeling like I had let you down. So that was disappointing. So much self-doubt. That was a really difficult thing for me to make that stand for myself. And so, so that was a big part of my challenge with that was I just did something that in the past I wouldn't have done. In the past I would have done that anyways. And I would have struggled with that, and it would have actually harmed our relationship in the long run.
I'm always surprised when you say that you don't know how to take care of, you don't know how to express your needs, because I feel in our relationship, I feel you express your need. You know how to express your needs. I don't feel you go beyond limit.
Yeah, but I agree with that. Okay. But that's also, that has come from work and vigilance, right? So it's almost as though, that it's not that I am. It's that it takes focus, right? It takes work. So it's actually been one of the things for me that has helped this relationship be awesome and continue to be awesome. Is that it just takes effort. I do it and it takes effort. I actually have to and balancing that, because there are times even yesterday. Working yesterday from however early we started until 10 o'clock at night or whatever, and just not really taking a break, except for when we both had our little temper tantrum and you said, "I'm never doing this with you again," and I said, "Fine," and I walked outside and got on my computer and went, "I'm not doing this. I'm not going to help her. She can do it herself." And you went to the other room And then I sat out there and I thought, this is ridiculous. We have to get this shit out of our living room and we have to be done. And so I'm going to grow up and be a big boy and I'm going to go back inside and I'm just going to get back to work. And we both, almost at the same time, walked back in and we started working.
I had a different, like that. I went into the room and I was like, Cera, this is your business. You can do this. You can pack those boxes. And I was like, I came in, I didn't care at that point if I was going to stop at 3 a.m, but it was going to get done, whether you were helping or not. Actually, you were not going to help. I was going to do it.
Until 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And you really weren't going to offer any olive branch or say, you know what,
Nope.
let's like find a way to work on this. Instead, we both came in and we silently worked, and I felt bad because we had Moneki was here working, your sister was here working, and it was like I was just thinking, oh, mommy and daddy are angry with each other, and it's the entire like house is just like no one's gonna say anything because mommy and daddy are mad at each other. And we just sat there and we just worked silently for like probably 3 hours in pretty much in silence, with a little quip here and there. I have to sort of admit that. And then at one point, and I'm going to say my biggest regret on yesterday was that at one point you just were like, just let's cuddle.
I got so tired and I was just like, can we just cuddle? Like, I just need a few minutes to... And you were like, no, I gotta do this.
Yeah, but I was like, I basically, like, I just grabbed your hand. I was like, let's just keep working. And I kind of regret, I wish I had just said, okay, fine, we'll take 5 minutes. But I just was feeling this whole pressure of getting it done. But kind of also coming back, though, is that the other time that for me I had that kind of difficulty, and with you, even I don't know how mutual that was, but was when you were launching your crowdfunding campaign for Ecodunia, and I was like trying to help you figure out something with your mailing list. And I stayed up really late, and you were like, we'll just push it one more day. It's fine, we'll push it one more day. But yet I took this ownership over your project in a way that was kind of unhealthy.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I actually like the way I operate. Mm-hmm. Is like, I know until how much I can push the boundaries. You know, I get to this point, and like, that's where I like Michael Singer, because it's like, what if the shipment doesn't leave the house? Like, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is never that bad, you know? So like, why push it so much? Like, I push it, but I know the limit. But for you operate on a very like different level, where if you decide something is like that day, like I was just like, all we were supposed to do was email our crowdfunding people. But when we started facing, like when there was like challenge after challenge after challenge, I stopped and I was like, maybe this is not supposed to go out today. Like, what is happening here? Like, what message am I getting? And at 9, I was just like, I'm out. But you stayed up.
Yeah.
And then you were frustrated the next day
because I was taking ownership of something that really didn't concern me.
No, and you still could not do it.
Yeah, the part of it is that, and because it had nothing to do with authentication. It was some other issue that I couldn't, like, anytime that I know there's a solution and I actually know, that I can get to it, I also get frustrated when I haven't gotten there. Because and I think there was some bigger issue. But that was also, for me, that was another piece of it, is that I just don't want to leave this linger. I know I can fix it. I know I can do it. I know I can do it. And then it ultimately had repercussions in my own work and my own business, and through all sorts of plans that I'd had. But yeah, it was just this taking ownership of something beyond the way I needed to take it. I could have just said, I can be there to help you if you need it. I can stop when you don't. And if you're, I can walk away from it when it's not working. But that kind of ownership that I ended up taking, and it happened yesterday too. And the day before was, an inordinate amount of ownership over the work that you were doing, which is on one side nice. Like, I care that much. I'm making it work well. And on the other side, why am I doing that? That's actually not then being caring for myself. And if I can't care for myself as well, then I can't care for you as well. And then
I know, and I think like what's the most frustrating about it, in the way you kind of talk about it, for me, is like, I actually don't need it. Like, you push it so much. Like, want to be able to ask for your help, but in some ways, like I ask for your help, but you just don't know when to stop helping. You know, it's just like, and then when you start helping, you want us to do your way, and then I'm resentful, so it's not really helping anyone.
Is that the way you see it?
That's the way I see it.
Good. Well, anyway, so when you kind of look at some of those conflicts, what are some of the pieces? What are some of the things that you actually see as some of the tools or some of the growth that you've gone through that actually allow it to be something that doesn't linger too long? Yeah, sometimes it does a little bit. Like even today, I feel a little bit of we could easily go back into that. Like we haven't actually had a time just kind of sit and to process.
I also think we're really tired. I think one of the things like I want to do is like take a break. Like either this weekend, it's my birthday weekend. Like I want to take a break. I haven't had a weekend off without work. I don't for weeks, for months. Maybe 2 months. Yeah. We haven't had like a break where we didn't work on weekends. And like I'm getting to that point where like my body feels like I need a break, know. So I think like also like knowing, like having to know when to take a break is like really has been really good in our relationship. So that's one of the things. Like I know that if I don't take this break, I'm gonna argue with not just you, but even with other people. Like I'm not functioning very well. I'm just tired. So that's one of the things like I've learned. And the other things, like I just remember when I was like, I think I was in my teens and I had a cousin. You'd argue about the smallest thing and she'd be annoyed 3 days later and you'd be like, wait, what did I do? And I just hated that habit. And I just remember being like, I am not gonna do this. Like I will not be this person. And I think I always go back to that, like if I have a challenge, I want to move on from it very quickly. I hate when people use like in relationships, like I do not use. And I think that's one of the things that we agreed on when we first started dating is like, we're not going to use things if they have already passed when we're arguing on a new challenge.
Right.
So I do not be like, you did this last week. Like I catch myself very quickly when I'm doing that. And not just with you, it's just like a new conflict is a new conflict and I want to solve it. And of course I'm human. So I do that sometimes, but I'm really, really conscious about it. Like I drop things and I try and face things as like yesterday was yesterday and today if we argue, it's today. I'm not going to bring up yesterday.
Right.
And also like I get over things really quickly.
But where did that come from? Because I feel like the getting over it, like there are certainly times where I feel like I just want to get over it, but something like then stays unexpressed or, I don't think that it's terribly uncommon that a difficulty becomes, like a stone in your shoe or something. So,
yeah. Do you feel like we have a system of dealing with our conflict in our relationship?
That's a good question. We definitely do have a system. And I don't know if I can put my finger on it, and I want to kind of come back to that and think about it more, but there's definitely a system. And one of those things is that we don't try and solve a difficult problem in the moment.
No.
It's that kind of like even you said, you know what? Yesterday, the shipment was supposed to go out yesterday. It was actually supposed to go out yesterday morning, right? Yeah. And it went out this morning. That was a full day. And it seems like it's not necessarily a big deal, but there are repercussions because there are all sorts of different shipping people it has to get to so it can get on a plane, and it's got to do multiple planes because the way that it gets shipped in order to minimize the carbon footprint is basically to find space on a plane that has extra space that's flying anyway. So we kind of plug it in. So there are actually repercussions, but are the repercussions so big that we have to try and solve that problem in the moment while we're trying to get stuff out the door? No, because that would never work. So we have a tendency to basically say, you know what, we're going to review. So we have that. We don't always follow this, or we haven't been successful at it all the time, but we do have a rule that we don't go to sleep angry with each other. And we've broken that rule many times. Somebody's broken it more than somebody else has.
Keep going. I am not.
You're not taking the bait?
No, I am not.
Okay. But that's generally a rule that we have. And even if one of us doesn't abide by that rule, the other one usually will. Right?
Yeah.
So like if you want to go to bed angry, that's fine. I'm not going to go to bed angry. And
if you want to go to bed angry, I also sometimes
you stay
which
awake
happens
for
a lot.
4 hours. Thinking like, why is he sleeping and I'm not sleeping? So I think those are, is it like a clear codified system? I don't think so, but we definitely have certain pieces in place that help us with that for sure.
Yeah, I so agree.
But I really think like the big one is that we don't try and solve the problem in the moment. Like even yesterday, we had our little moment where we needed to go take a 5-minute timeout. And we went and took our 5-minute timeout, and then we just came back and said, we didn't talk about it. We're not going to solve this today. We're going to solve it another time.
Yeah, and I think what happens is like when you try not to solve it in the moment, as time goes, you kind of just realize like it's
not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
And we also got to sit there and work in silence for like 2 or 3 hours, which like I don't see a problem with that.
No.
And we talk a lot anyways, so for us to actually just work in silence, it was not a problem.
It was like painful for me to just sit there and like not talk to you, but that
was kind of nice.
It was nice.
I was really enjoying the silence. And so I think that just has to be sort of a big piece. And I guess the other one too is that in that conflict yesterday, I wanted to think of like, what is my part in this? And that was my big thing. Not what was your part? Because that's easy. When we're in the conflict, it's like, you did this, you did this, you did this.
I'm just curious, like, if you're listening to this, how, as a couple, or maybe just individually, how you deal with conflict and when challenges arise and when there's like so much going on and stress and,
Yeah, what are either the techniques that you have or the things that are just like, this thing keeps coming up and I have no idea how to deal with it. Those are also pretty interesting questions. So we'd love to hear from you. You'll see the email addresses in any of the show notes, and we'll look forward to touching base again soon. Thanks for coming out and joining us. It's been fun. It's been challenging. As you can tell, we have still some work to do to come to a close in a really good place after our challenging weekend. But we are certainly up to the challenge. If not, this is our last episode. So thanks again for joining us at our podcast. It's Not All Black and White.
I'm Cera. I'm black.
I'm Matthew. I'm white. We're the Interracial Couple, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.